Hey, what's up, wedding filmmakers? Welcome back. Another week, another Thursday, and you know what that means. That means it is time for wedding film reviews live here on the Wedding Film Schol channel. Now, if you came here from my post on our Facebook group, which you should be a part of if you're not, Wedding Film Schol, it's 17,000 members. Awesome resource for wedding filmmakers of all stages of their career. But if you saw that post, I said myself, Jay, and Jared would be here this week. My mistake, confusion on my part. It is once again myself and Jay. Jay, how's it going?
It's going really good. How are you?
I'm good. I had a week of vacation. I went out to South Dakota to the Badlands, had a blast out there, and just getting back in the swing of things.
Did you did you guys get to do any four-wheeling or anything cool like that?
No, just hiking mostly. So went to the Badlands. Oh, I did go to Wind Cave National Park, which is just a miles and miles and miles and miles cave system, completely underground. It was pretty wild. So no ATVing, but I prefer hiking anyway.
Hey,
saw lots of cool animals too.
So before we get started with this, we have a question in the chat. And
yes.
And RJ, I don't mean to pick on you because I understand the question. I don't think it's a stupid question, but I do want to.
You did post it twice, so
you posted it?
Now I'm starting to pick on you.
Okay, I'll pick on you now. So he says, which drone camera is best for weddings? And this is what I'll say, RJ. In general, here's what I want to encourage you to do. When you think about weddings, pretty much, unless you're talking about music licensing, which Music Bed is the best for wedding filmmaking.
That's what I hear. That's word on the street.
Head over there. Get 1 month off. Annual
first.
wedding subscription using our code. That being said, I think most gear, you're pretty much talking about which gear can you afford and what's best at that budget. So that's my question to you is, how much do you want to spend? But that being said, pretty much anything by DJI is very solid. I don't have experience with a lot of other drones.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going off a tangent right away, guys. But I would actually, anybody in chat, share what you're shooting with drone-wise too. But yeah, to recap quick, I agree. Anything DJI. I've shot with the Phantom series, which is awesome. The Mavic series, the new Mavic, the 3 Pro or whatever, phenomenal drone. But also if you want it with all the bells and whistles, it's like $4,000 or something. So
I have a 3 Mini.
Is a great
S, the
Mini,
Air S.
whatever. Yeah, I forget what they are, but yeah, and so tiny. It's so cool. I love the how far drones have come. I remember shooting on the original Phantom with a GoPro attached to it. I could see it for 100 feet maybe, and it would lose transmission. Crazy. All right, but anyway.
That being said, all I was saying was, hey, look, don't think of it that way. Think about it.
There's no one best thing. You'll actually see. I mean, I don't know, right? But because I don't know who we're reviewing here today. But chances are it's going to be 3 different camera systems or 2 maybe. There's no one best thing, guys. We're big believers in the right tools for the job, and also the filmmaker makes
and
big
for your
difference.
budget.
We see people with A7S3s that make fine films, and we see people with like, man, who do we review recently who shot on like the Canon 80D? Was that Grant?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's like, it was a super solid film. That camera's like 9 years old or something.
So back to what I said, which drone can you afford? And, you know, look around that budget and you'll be happy as long as it's modern and new and shoots 4K. So,
anyway, we've got some wedding films to review today. We've got 3 for sure. Maybe have time for one more that we will do live from the chat. We'll see at the end of the day. Thanks to everybody for being here. We love the people who are here. We love all of you who are here, but especially the people who are here consistently. We love seeing familiar faces in the chat, in the submissions. And while you guys are here, we'd love to have you like our video down below, subscribe, become a member if you want priority access to getting your films reviewed. And the way that we do this, guys, we're going to watch these films pretty much in their entirety. We might stop around 5 minutes.
If I get triggered.
We might chat a little bit throughout it, but for the most part, typically we try to watch it without too many interruptions. And then we're going to go, myself and Jay, we're going to share a few things that we love, things that we think this filmmaker did very, very well. And then a few areas of improvement, what we see as kind of the areas they should focus on, the most important things to make the biggest impact in their next wedding. We've seen some films, you know, very start of the career, people 5, 10, maybe even 15 years in. So we get people from all, you know, walks as far as their career goes, and experience levels. So we encourage you to submit regardless of where you're at. And these are completely free, guys. Now you do get, you know, priority if you're a member, which costs just $5 a month down in next to the subscribe button, the join button. But for the most part, you know, we just want to give back to this community. We want to share our expertise with, I don't know, what do we have? 30 combined years in the wedding industry.
Yes.
45 if you add Jared in, who's not here today. So yeah, just trying to share our opinions, and we want to hear from you guys too in the chat. We are not, you know, we have a lot of experience, which is great, but you know, some of this is just our opinions and our thoughts. So we love when you guys in chat also share your thoughts on things you liked, things that you thought could be improved, any questions you have, stuff like that. So let's keep it going in chat, and without further ado, Jay, are we ready to roll into our first one?
Yeah, let's look at this filmmaker right here. I clicked on the wrong thing. Here it is, the right thing. So our first filmmaker today is going to be Brock Jones. He's a member of Wedding Film Schol on our channel, so thank you so much for being a member. He shot on 2 Sony FX3s, a lot more of those I'm seeing, and an A7 IV, and that's a very popular C cam. So really cool.
Yeah, was the FX3 the new one that just came out?
The FX, no, that's the 30. The FX3 is the block version of the. It's basically the same camera.
Yeah. I've had a second shooter shoot with that. I like the footage. It was really solid.
This is my
last. I
had
a hard time keeping track of all these different camera names.
I was telling someone the other day. It started to get diminishing returns for me. Like they're all good. Every camera's good.
Just do it by year. This is the Sony 2023 camera.
The day went really well. This was my last wedding running a gimbal the full day. It just wore myself out as a solo shooter with too much equipment to run around with all day. Otherwise, my only challenge was the audio at the start. I used a shotgun microphone, but the background noise was tough to try to filter out. I would encourage you if you're using Final Cut Pro, the new voice isolation tool, and actually DaVinci just added one too, and maybe Premiere has it. I'm just not Premiere.
Premiere has its own tool, and there's also, have you seen? We'll get into this, but prepare yourselves. Have you seen that new AI thing? I'm gonna look up the name. I can't think of the name.
The culling one?
No. It's for audio cleanup.
Oh, I've heard about it. I have not used it. We should review it.
While we do this, I'm going to.
Yeah, let's do it.
But while we do this, I'm going to look up the name.
Okay, so here we go. This is filmmaker Brock Michaels Films. I'm going to go ahead and just post his link in the chat, guys. And I always like it when we're able to go and support the filmmaker. Check out their work. Look at their website. Here we are. Drop a like on the video if you can. It means a lot to us. And here we go. You ready for this one, Bobby?
Yeah, let's do it. I cannot hear anything.
Oh, interesting.
Can you all hear anything? People in chat?
Yes.
Okay. Felipe saying
Oh,
no.
I got it. I messed it up. Wah, wah, wah. I know what I did. There's a go live button, and I didn't hit it. It was
we ain't trying to go live.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
I'm excited because we have like a learning today and get dinner and like I'll get stuff.
I'm just excited. I think Sarah and Austin are literally perfect together. So it's going to be a good day.
We met in medical school, probably some of the worst times of our lives.
You're trauma bonded.
I call Sarah and Austin my mom and dad. they just they let me tag along with them every.
This is very chaotic sounding.
Yeah. We'll dive into it.
I just did. That's it. I dove in.
It's been really nice, and I love Sarah to death. So
Laura is the only person that can put Sarah in her place and not get yelled at.
I can tell Sarah.
Sarah's a little different. She called me or called Sylvia and said, bringing over this guy, Austin. He's not going to be, he won't come in the house. We have to talk in the driveway. All right, so we did. Right? Maybe a week later, we let him come up on the porch.
I remember always as a kid wanting to spend time with you and wanting to be around you, even during our like Janko days, well, your Janko days, and tie-dyed shirts and the butt cut haircut. And I was like this weird, confused gangster. I remember the first time that I met Sarah, you had said, I remember the conversation, you had said, vaping is just as bad as smoking cigarettes for you. I said, what are you, some kind of doctor? I never in a million years thought Austin would date a doctor, let alone marry one.
That was weird.
I see you dancing, Rosalita, Lita. I'm at your window tonight. Go to your daddy, rather need.
This is a dope song, though. I wish.
Don't care if it's alright. Hey there, Mister, wanna meet your sister, looking at her for a good time. And you look over your shoulder, this girl is getting older, and she wants to find freedom tonight. You set my heart on fire. Oh no, the more that I think about it, I walk the tightrope wire. It's for the thrill of the fight. Keep looking my way. Give everything you want and more. And treat me the same again.
Bobby, we're 3 minutes in, and there's like 4 minutes left to go, and I cannot imagine what this film is going to have in it.
I also cannot.
So
like, are we just in reception? Like, we're just at dancing?
We're just
already?
here. We're here.
Well, I don't want to watch 4 minutes of dancing, but I am curious if there's.
I'm curious. Oh, wow.
Oh, we're back.
We're back. What? They should have done like a thought, like where she was leaning like this.
Perfect.
And she's like leaning, and then like
She was
inside of
screaming
her
about later.
inside of her brain, like all this clips just appeared inside of her brain.
There was no dance floor. It was
That
all
actually was not a
figment
real
of her
dance floor.
imagination.
That was all staged.
On behalf of Austin and Sarah and their families, welcome to beautiful Lake Geneva. What a great place we get to gather.
Hey, I know there.
Growing up, they came here during summers and holidays.
Oh yeah, Lake
Visit her
Geneva,
grandparents.
beautiful.
Her parents even had their honeymoon here. Sarah's grandfather, her Opa, is no longer with us, but I know it's so special to have her Oma here today. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the love here, those who are here in spirit, and those and all of us. We surround Sarah and Austin in love today. Thanks for sharing this place.
I think it's funny when guys officiate and they
I met
stand that
Austin
far
back
back from the
2000,
microphone. Like,
when his life was drastically different than it is today. How did we get here? Yeah, his life was a mess. But anyway, that was 16 long years ago. I was there the day Austin saw Sarah for the first time. It was at a 4th of July parade in Northside, and that was back in 2017. I knew Sarah through mutual
I'm fast forwarding.
Okay.
Forever. We are 100% without a doubt compatible.
I remember seeing you on July 3rd, 2017, and the way you looked at me made me feel special. Several months later, you asked me out, and I told you no.
I gotta see the end of this one, Bobby, because I just can't imagine what he's gonna do.
What I really meant is that I
Well, and I
saw
think
you
we're gonna
as
end up
fun,
talking about
adventurous,
story
and charismatic, and I was
stuff
scared
like
I would
that,
be too boring
and-
for you.
No,
Yeah,
I
it would be
mean,
good to
like,
know.
how did he end it?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all the while, I was still attracted to you, and so a year later, when you asked me out again, I set my fears aside and said yes. Somehow,
Mike,
as different
Mike
as we
Teves in
are,
chat.
you
He's
are the
invested
person
again.
I've been able to
Oh,
be my
there's
truest self with.
cute little
I
dogs.
vow that I will continue to be true to myself and to you throughout our marriage. I'm so thankful that I found
The real dance. Wouldn't it be awesome if it was a totally different dance floor and we were right? It was like,
Well, I pronounce you husband and wife. You can kiss.
oh yeah.
We all fall down, we get banged up, but the scars show how love heals us.
You're married now.
All right. I kissed the guy.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We're gonna rehash a conversation from last week on this, I think.
Sarah. We need some bubbles. Anybody want to blow bubbles? Love you guys.
1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah, I want a time on this shot. It's gotta be like 30 seconds, right?
Sarah and Austin
Whoa.
are the total embodiment of strength. Making
This is,
time for
we're at the very end of this video, so something
both which I
is
feel
about to
I'm
happen.
proud of you for it. I know
Oh,
it's not easy, but you
this
both
again.
really make it look that way. In each other, you have found the perfect partner both to have fun with, but also to stay strong. I am so proud of both of you and happy to call you my family. I love you so much, and you both deserve the absolute world.
It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are certainly gonna have some things to say. I think, well, good and bad.
It's
right?
not all bad. Like I want to like. I'll just
There's
say on
a
the
lot.
front end, like this was some of the most confusing storytelling I've seen in a wedding film.
Yeah. There's some decent shooting. There's a lot of like the blocks, or I don't know what phrase I'm trying to use here, but a lot of like what makes a good wedding filmmaker here.
Oh
And it
yeah,
just
yeah. That's
needs
what I was
to
gonna
be
say. The
different,
storytelling
I think,
is a
the thing.
mess,
Yeah.
but the shooting and most of the capturing, minus the audio, I think there's
Yeah,
not
we're
a.
still gonna get into stuff for sure.
It needs some work, but it's honestly like pretty solid shooting and a lot of really good coverage. So this is, I think we say this a lot, by the way, right? Hey, what do we like about the film? The shooting. I think that when you think about like wedding filmmaking in general, right? That's honestly one of the things that people get good at first, right, Bobby?
Yeah. Yeah, it's more it's instant, feedback, right? You can instantly look at your screen and say, this looks good. This is exposed correctly. I like the colors in this. Oh, the framing is really cool. I love this light or this shadow. You get this instant gratification. Whereas with an edit, it has to simmer, and you don't have to, but you should submit it for reviews and let other people help you and look at it. And there's just, I mean, you can finish an edit and you can say, wow, I really love that or whatever. But yeah, I think it's easier to, I don't want to say master shooting, right? But
I think it is. I think it is.
Maybe, but like you get there first, and maybe not mastering, but like you make progress in shooting quickly.
Well, so anyway, what I like about the film, they got like lots of coverage. I think like even like this dance floor, it looks nice. I like the way he shot that dance floor. I would have liked a little more.
I would have liked to
different
see his
variety.
light have more impact there, but yeah.
But I'm okay with it. I mean, he's you can't the one thing is when you have these bright DJ lights, you really do
Yeah,
need to
that's true.
expose for the highlights. You can't be like exposing for those shadows that way because I think those things peek out in a very unpleasing way. But anyway, I think a lot of it's really solid. And like, I didn't notice like crazy color shifts. I didn't notice like tons of white balance issues.
Here and there, but yeah.
It was very solid.
But
like,
I have a little bit of that in my films sometimes too. Like
me too, dude. Me too. There's sometimes where I'm like, I can't make this color look good. Print it.
Whatever. I think as far as things that I like, so I do want to acknowledge, although I think it was executed, I don't want to say poorly. I think I just wouldn't include it is kind of what it was. But I like the concept of these like interviews that you were doing with, I don't know who that little girl was, but kind of all the bridesmaids maybe is what it seemed like. Like that's a cool concept. I think that could work. I think you could do it a lot better and then it would be much better to use. And I think you could incorporate it better because it was just very all over the place for me. But the concept and the creativity and the drive or push for yourself to try that, I think is very interesting. I actually think so. Immediately when I saw your submission that we read here, and you said this was the last one that I was on gimbal the whole time. I just hate when people are on gimbal the whole time. But I will say that of the films that I have seen where somebody's on a gimbal the entire day, pretty much, I actually don't think this one rubbed me the wrong way too bad. Like, you seem to be pretty intentional with your gimbal moves, and I think that's where people get lost with the gimbal. So I think you were actually pretty solid there.
A lot of times he was using it more like he's actually a very good gimbal operator.
Yeah.
And using
very stable and intentional and
using it more like a tripod sometimes, which is a great way to use a gimbal. So this is a good camera operator. So let's talk about the part that we both have an issue with, which is the storytelling.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first, Bobby?
Sure. So I think it's a mix of a lot of things. One, it just feels very chaotic. Like, it doesn't feel like there's an overarching storyline to me. Like, we've got these interviews that are low quality, I guess you'd say, maybe, for sure on the audio side, kind of on the visual side. They don't seem to really flow together. They're just kind of
they're
like
not
thrown
symmetrical
in there.
either from a standpoint of like he doesn't have any of the other side, so it feels like unbalanced.
Yeah, and I understand like why that might happen in the day. Maybe you went in trying to do both and it just didn't happen. The guys didn't cooperate, which totally happens. Or you had all this time on your hands and you're like, well, whatever, I'll just interview them. But like, it seemed not thought out as far as how you're going to execute it. A shotgun mic is probably not going to be the answer there. And so I think it took down your film ultimately. And then you have these like transitions were really harsh between different like songs and parts of the day. And then there's also just like the structure, which is like we have kind of this prep and these random interviews like in and out, and then all of a sudden it's just dancing for like a minute. And I know you're trying to use that upbeat song, which was a cool song, but like, why did it go at the 2-minute mark on a 7-minute film? And I'm not against like, non-chronological editing, but there has to be purpose behind it. And it literally, to me, it felt like this was at the 6-minute mark and you just copied the whole thing and just placed it in at the 2-minute mark and shifted everything over.
Well, from 3.5 minutes to 7 minutes, we were showing ceremony.
Yeah.
And I show ceremony for like 30 seconds, Bobby.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
in a highlight.
It depends. It depends actually for me. Like if it's a great ceremony with tons of content, that might be what's kind of driving my film.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
But
I don't mind using I don't really consider like a good narrative element from a ceremony. That I might
like
use throughout the whole
visual,
film.
Like how
but when
much
you're
takes up
editing the sequence and you're like, this section is ceremony section, right? It's like 30 seconds. She walks in, they stand there, he cries, they walk out.
I agree. There's just not that like it's
like you were in ceremony land a really, really long time. Like I think in this film, the climax was supposed to be this moment right here. And let's see, this shot starts at like 6:35 and it goes, wow. It goes all the way to 6:23. So it's almost a straight minute of
to maybe 520. Yeah.
from here
Yeah.
all the way to then walking down the aisle. And this
And
is a
there's
good.
a lot of that is not needed.
Here's what I'll say for me. For just from a technical standpoint, having a room with a bunch of background noise, people talking, music playing in the room, music playing in your soundtrack, you cannot have that in your film. It literally makes the listener feel like they're losing their mind. Like it's just chaotic, and it's not pleasing. It hurts. It doesn't feel good. It's the opposite of like the feeling you want someone to have when watching a wedding film. So that's just a technical thing. I would encourage you, if you're gonna do interviews, get people in an isolated environment. Even if you don't have a great mic, at least you can do something with that.
Yeah, and you know what you're doing. Like, we see you using some good natural light and stuff like that. Like, set it up.
Yeah,
Be in charge.
Spend some time, get it set up correctly so it doesn't hurt. And then the other thing I would say, just to amplify what you were saying, Bobby, from a story structure standpoint, is like, I think we call it editing for a reason, right?
Yep.
And if you promise someone a 7-minute film here, I kind of think maybe you shouldn't be promising that, because I think at the end of the day, this film just couldn't support it. It just didn't have the content to be a 7-minute film. And if you didn't promise someone a 7-minute film, then you need to learn to cut some stuff out. Like, you don't.
It says they purchased a 6 to 8 minute for what that's worth. So this should be 6 minutes.
Yeah. I think.
And really, it should probably be shorter, and you should.
My opinion is it should be a 5-minute film, 5.5. But like, just giving yourself the freedom to actually cut. Like, there was a lot of people saying like I always cut out stuff when they're like, yeah, well, when we met, and it's got kind of like this like leading in, kind of talking and a toast, and then you're just having like a relentless onslaught of toasts through the entire thing. People just talking. The microphones are changing. Like, some of the audio has a terrible little flutter echo in it, and other times it's like really tight sounding because it's on a microphone, and other times it sounds like it's on a shotgun mic. I just found the whole thing to be super jarring. Like, I almost felt like I was watching 4 different films. So I would encourage you.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, like, trim it down, focus on the story that you're telling, and make it cohesive, and make sure every single point is amplifying the overall narrative. Don't just don't edit like, oh, well, they're going to want this, and they're going to want this, and they're going to want this, and they're going to want this. Really what you should be doing is going, if they want that, they should pay me for the speech. Not, I have to put this you don't have to put every speech in a highlight film.
Yep.
You know,
Agreed.
just put the good parts in, and like, that's why we sell other things in our packages. You're actually costing yourself money when you just jam everything in there. So, I mean, I would say, please just keep on it. You're clearly a very good filmmaker. You have a lot of skill and ability. Try to go into your next game plan, like and what I do know sometimes, Bobby, is people go like, oh, chronological. I'm so bored with that. Right? Yeah. I want to be more creative. And I love that. I think that's great. But if you're going to do that, maybe like, don't edit in such like block sections, like getting ready, dancing.
Yeah, it needs to be like more intermix. It can't just be like, here's the minute of dancing that would be at the end of the film, but it's here instead.
Yes, it was almost like the film, like the editing, like timeline got accidentally like shuffled.
yeah.
Like,
but
anyway.
Ultimately, what it comes down to is, did the couple like it? And if they did, and it's, you get paid for it, you get to add it to your, your catalog of your portfolio, and you get to learn from it and whatever. And there's some solid shots in here. So
well, I would say too, is if this was like, I'm assuming he's not charging like $8,000, right? So if this is like a $2,000 film, I'm sure a lot of couples would really, really, really love this. So don't just stop doing what you're doing, but we're just giving you some tips to improve it, maybe refine your filmmaking skills a little bit. But really,
and I would love to see another submission from Brock in, maybe in 6 months or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think the building blocks are there.
There's a very good filmmaker in there, 100%.
Cool. So we will go next, but real quick, I want to say, and it's hard for me to comment on audio too much. But that AI audio, tell me if you guys have heard about it. I don't know if it's tied to Premiere because I think it's through Adobe somehow, or if it's its own thing, but it's called Shasta. Have you heard of that, Jay?
I've heard people talking about it.
I think I signed up for like a, what's it called? Like a beta or whatever. And then I like submitted some stuff, but it was like the worst audio. The worst audio. I had this ceremony where I was plugged into the system. The system. I was like, hey, to the band. Band was setting up for reception. Hey, are you guys amplifying sound for the ceremony? Because it was in the same spot. And they're like, no, we weren't hired for that. I was like, oh, okay. Then I asked the venue, hey, so like, it's not going through the band. Is it going through the house system? And they're like, no, they didn't add that on. So nobody was in charge of amplifying. So the band real quick set something up, but it wasn't something I could get a feed from. And so I didn't realize that. Luckily I had my backups and people mic'd and whatever, but for readers who were off to the side, I had a camera, so far away from them. The audio was terrible, and I tried running it through Shasta. Now, it didn't work perfectly. It still wasn't really usable.
Here's what I like about Shasta is web-based, by the way.
Yep, yeah. Man, the amount that it improved it to like where it was like clear, audible. The problem is it was so aggressive that it was like dropping, different points of the words, and it was almost like interpreting the words. It was crazy. It was very, very crazy. But maybe we should do a video on that. All that to say, if you have even relatively decent audio and it's just like, oh, a little bit of wind noise or whatever, it might be something worth looking into.
I do think the new tools that are in Final Cut Pro,
voice isolation is so nice.
Oh my goodness, blows my mind.
Crushes it. I wish I had that like 5 years ago.
It's so good. Yeah, as long as you don't go way over 50%.
Yeah, I'm usually 30 or something. It's crazy
for BTS videos, dude. It's a game changer.
Yeah, seriously, because we're running around like crazy. Sweet. All right, let's move on to our second film.
Let's do it. What do we got?
We've got Brandon Rice, who I believe is in chat. Brandon saying he submitted and wrote a novel.
Yes.
Brandon, you definitely wrote a lot, but novel, I don't know. I think we've seen longer, so step it up next time, yeah? All right, so this was the first for me, he says. Orthodox Coptic wedding, which is pretty intense. People
so beautiful. Those
Yeah.
churches are gorgeous.
Yeah, for sure. The ceremony itself, also very important to the couple to be the focal point of their film. I ended up shooting with 4 different cameras, 3 on tripods, 1 monopod for the ceremony. Got a lot of good shots throughout. The edit was challenging as well. They really wanted me to use a lot of the live audio from the ceremony, but it was also in another language half the time. Couple's portrait session was 10 or 15 minutes max, and even though they had an epic dance party, they asked me not to include any of that footage. I wonder why. If that was like a...
I mean, Coptic churches can be pretty conservative, so maybe...
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe a little more conservative or whatever. Anyway, they purchased a 5-minute film and raw footage, and maybe at the end we can have everybody guess what they paid or something.
I like the idea that this film is missing an element that most of us would have, because it's interesting to see, like, Brandon's a good filmmaker, so kind of like, how do they solve these problems, right?
Yeah, I always love... I think... You and I, Jay, talk about that, and we talk about that in like BTS and our plans for BTSs that we do, where it's like, it's cool to like see filmmakers who are obviously experienced and have done some awesome work really in a setting that's like tough.
Pushes them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. It looked like that little kid was going to give 2 thumbs up.
Just thinking about it.
I would like that.
Mark, my best friend, and my forever love. Thank you for the past 5 years. Thank you for loving me so well. Thank you for always putting me ahead. In 2017, I put a note in my memory jar saying, quote, I think I found my future husband, parentheses, Mark Naguib, just in case I forgot. I've always known that you were going to be my husband, even before we became friends. I wrote, I will always choose you on your ring, because if we replayed everything over, and if everything was different, I will always choose you every time.
So I know traditionally people take this time and they make vows, but Marina, I think that if the Lord doesn't build a house, my vows, any vows I could make today would be in vain. So today I want to pause and offer some prayers. I think first I want to pray that God would teach me to love you and enhance every beautiful part of you more and more. I also pray that God would continue to make me more and more into His image and likeness so that I would be a better and better husband to you. And Marina, I pray that God would give me wisdom, even more of that of your dad's, so that I would treat you more and more like a flower, like He raised you to be. Weezy, my sweet flower. I pray that Christ would give me grace to lift you up as He lifts you up, to sacrifice for you as He sacrificed Himself for you, and to love you as He always loved you. Sweetheart, I can't wait for you to be my wife. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for being mine, and thank you for loving me oh so well. I love you so much, and I promise to always love you more, and I can't wait to see where God will take us.
يا رب يا من حول الماء خمرا حقيقيا بسلطان لاهوته، بارك عبديك وطهرهما بمحبتك للبشر. نطلب إليك يا رب أن تستجيب لنا وترحمنا.
I have been there from the start. Marina told me when Mark asked her out for the first time, and she was like, I don't know how to do, like, I don't know, like, should I say yes? Like, oh, I was just so stressed, and I was like, why would you not? Like, what's the issue? Like, why are you nervous? Yes. So we love having you in our family, Mark. We love you so much. You are the brother that we've always wanted. I appreciate you being with us, and I love to see you just be the absolute best power couple Nashville could have. Love you.
Me, Mark, and two other friends, we were sitting after church, we were just hanging out. Again, this is back in high school. And somebody asked Mark, is there somebody you were talking to? Is there somebody you're interested in? And Mark said, yes. There's this one girl, and her name is Marina Youssef. And obviously we knew Marina, but then we went on and asked him, Mark, why Marina? What's so special about her that you like so much? And it's funny that I can remember it till this day, his face kind of glowing up, and him smiling as he was telling the story. And he was saying, guys, Marina is so involved with so many things. And I love her family. They're such sweet people. And she's so kind and beautiful. And look how things have turned out, Mark. Mark, you are marrying the one you've had a crush on since you were a child.
I've loved you for so long, and I've been counting down for today for way too long. I'm happy that I'll finally live every moment of my life with you. I'm thankful God has blessed me with the most loving, selfless, wise future husband. I pray that I can serve and love you well, Mark. I am proud to be your wife. I will love you more than I can ever express. Thank you for choosing to be mine.
All right. So, Bobby, what did you like?
Yeah, so okay, I like the opening. I think it's interesting to start with what I'm going to call like the chanting. That's maybe not the right word.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, especially for them, you know what I mean? given what he told us about what they wanted and stuff like that. Okay, a couple other things I really like. I think you really leaned into like coverage, and I wrote that early on when we're looking through this section here, this beginning of the film, this processional, right? Like, these aren't staged beautiful shots, right? Like, you're on, I think, a gimbal here, moving around a little bit, but like, you got what you needed to get to cover that, and you leaned into using that coverage instead of just like being like, I don't know, it's not perfect, it's not, the lighting, there's no natural light and all these cool shadows or whatever. Like, it just kind of is what it is, and you used it, and I think that's the right move there. And the reason why I think it's the right move, and one of the other things that I wrote down, is that I think you made their film, right? Like, I think we want something we struggle with as wedding filmmakers is we want every film to be our, front page, landing page on our website, first film on our portfolio film, and every film just might not be. And it might be limitations of the day, or the couple, or things that are out of your hands, or it might be something like this where it's like they want this, they only gave you 10 minutes of couple time, and they don't want their dance footage in it, and like things that we have to respect as a filmmaker and say, well, I'm still going to make you a solid film. Maybe it's not what I would normally make. Maybe it's not, if I had complete creative control, which you technically do, of course, but like, lean into what they want. I think you made a very good version of what they wanted. And I also think that you made a lot from a little. Like, I really like the skyline shots. I'm going to touch on some things I don't love as much, but like, especially knowing you had 10 minutes, 15 minutes, which happens from time to time, right? We've all been there. I think you got a good variety, and so, interspersed throughout the film well.
I think the editing was not for everyone, but it's definitely Brandon's style, which I think is good. He has a signature kind of style, and the couple who wanted it bought this more slower pace and way of storytelling. Yeah. And I think in that way, he did what he does, and I think they're going to love it. I think the way you chose to include a lot of these elements was really solid. And I also agree with you. That was them. Like, you were watching this film and you're like, you got a sense of who these people were, and what their values were, how they felt about each other, a lot of stuff. So I think that was a success in a lot of ways, and showed experience and skill. So good. As much as I think I could see, like, I think that the things that were not included in the film did hurt the film.
Probably, yeah.
But I don't
from
believe...
a purely filmmaking.
Yeah. From like me, just a random person watching it.
Yeah.
Not to them, of course, but to a random person. I think it is what we said, where he had a challenge and he made the film he could make with the challenge. And I think there was a lot of good decisions in the edit that I felt. I could just see the intentionality, and that was good.
Yeah, for sure. What about things, you want me to go first? You want to go first as far as things that you think could be improved? Sorry, did you say me?
You.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so just a couple things. One, I think while I like that intro with the chanting, I would have gone to a couple shots earlier from the skyline or something. I think those are your best shots. I think, I like the intro. I like the chanting. But visually, we are kind of already touched on how, like, these aren't your top 10 shots, right? They're just kind of coverage. And I think you leaned into that and you showed the important parts. And I think you could still do that while also interspersing some of your better shots to visually hook us earlier on in the film. And then the other thing that I want to touch on, and, I will say just right off the bat, I've known this for many, many years, like, Brandon, your like color style is not my preference. I find it to be very dark. That's not really color, I guess that's more exposure. But kind of color and exposure side, like your grade is not like, I would change some things there. I think there are aspects of this that work with that dark, but I also think you have like kind of this mix. Like, there are shots when I'm looking at their I'll call it letter reading, and it kind of ties in their first look. Like the shot on the groom is like where I would expose. Like I think this shot right here, I think we're looking at when I'm talking, is like really good. I really like the skin tone, and the outside is like maybe a little overexposed, but that's like the right move in my opinion. Whereas other things are like a little darker, and then there's also some shots where I just feel like the colors, like this one right here, the colors are just like really dull.
Dingy.
Like there's no.
The whole film is, in my opinion, too desaturated.
Yeah, desaturated, dull, whatever. So I think, and again, look, everybody has their look and their style, and I know that this is kind of what you've clung on to over the years, and like, I don't think everything has to be light and airy or bright and poppy or whatever, but I think there is like a threshold, even when you're going for desaturated, even when you're going for darker, moodier, I think there's a level of still like,
I just think like
certain shots stand
skin
out
tones
as
that
below,
tones that look
like that. I really like that shot.
Yeah.
Well, we're scrubbing through, so you probably can't.
Yeah, I would just say that when a skin tone looks kind of unhealthy, that's when I don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's just somewhat our
And
opinion.
it's not everything here. I think it was just some shots to me that stood out.
A little too green in the skin tones and like anyway, especially on people with like olive tones in their skin, it really stands out. What else, Bob? Anything else?
That was pretty much all I had. I mean, we've obviously a very solid film.
So I think that the crop is messing him up a little bit because I'm noticing a lot of things where we're kind of decapitating people, or the composition just looks off and it's dipping below the crop. And I'm wondering if he should shoot with a monitor with his crop in it,
lines in there,
so he can compose a little better. The other thing is, for me, this is my biggest critique with this film. There's that great vow reading, and the way it was covered was just not good.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious. I know Brandon is in chat, so I'd love to hear. Like, I feel like there has to be something that set him up with the angles that set him up, and I don't know what it is, but it seems covered oddly to me.
Well, there's a couple where like the frame where she's reading and she's drifting to the far right, and but I also think there's a shot that I wanted to see, which is a wide shot of both of them sitting back to back.
Yeah.
Like I'm just hungry for that shot, and instead we kind of have like these.
We have that one silhouette that's kind of like that, but not really.
It's off. No, that was the same camera used to cover the groom, and he just kind of shifted over and changed the exposure. I think that could have been like, bring it down, give the film some life, and create dynamics in the film, because that moment,
a powerful shot.
And the whole film was like, that whole sequence was special. Like, and I felt it could have been used to greater effect if it was covered a little stronger, a little more intentionally, especially if you knew that you couldn't use the dance floor. Now I'm not sure if he did know. Maybe he didn't know ahead of time. Maybe he didn't know about this thing happening.
There's
Maybe
tons of reasons.
I don't know, but I do think like to me, like, this being shot super intentionally, this sequence right here would have made the film really, really, really solid, and would have lifted it and maybe kept it going a little more. So that's my
I'm a sucker for that, like, symmetry and lines, and like they're angled slightly, not like they're not straight on those garage doors or windows or whatever they
that's
are.
what I
Man,
mean.
if they had been lined up right on those, and like right from the profile view, that could be so.
Yes.
Cool. And there's probably tons of reasons why that couldn't happen. So
who knows? I'm just saying, from an edit standpoint, if this would have been a little stronger, the film would have been a lot stronger, and it would have helped with some of the problems that weren't his fault. And maybe this wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. That's not a major critique. That's just like
Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, dang, this was like a good part. Like, there's a lot of really, like, this shot right here. Like, I don't know why this should ever be how someone would shoot that.
Yeah, that was an odd one. I think he only cut to that like once, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't have cut to it at all.
It did stick out, yeah.
But in general, it's like, I just think it seemed like they were kind of caught flat-footed with this, and that happens. So,
yep.
But I think, especially for, like we said before, especially for not having any kind of high energy moments, it felt good. It felt like a cohesive story, and yeah, I don't know. I actually enjoyed the film.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. So we got a lot of chat going on. I know somebody was asking what he shoots. I know.
Is that
Pretty sure Brandon
Panasonic?
shoots Panasonic. Yeah. Oh yeah, he says S5. Cool. Oh, we got some regulars back in. We got Grant. We got Kyle. Love it. Cool.
Brandon, we
So-
appreciate you too. Thank you for submitting.
Yeah, thanks for submitting.
It takes a lot, by the way. He's not like a newbie guy. So when someone who's experienced lets themselves be put on the chopping block from time to time, that takes guts. And so Brandon, appreciate you doing that.
For sure. Cool. So we got anything to cover before we roll into our
Podcast
our
episode
third film?
coming out later today. Hopefully the video can come out today, but maybe tomorrow. But we're talking about, we're actually interviewing Josh Helton from A Little Long Distance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. He is really, really amazing, and yeah, excited.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. I guess just a couple of housekeeping things before we get into our third film. One, if you do want to watch that podcast episode, first of all, audio-wise, you can find it on all your normal podcast channels, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. If you want to watch the video, though, you can see that when it goes live on our sister channel, the Wedding Film School Show. So go over there, subscribe, etc., etc. On this channel, though, a couple things. One, we'd love to have you give this video a like if you're here right now and you haven't already. Me and Jay both did this at the exact same time, so that's pretty cool. We did that just for you. So yeah, hit the like button. That always helps us. Make sure you subscribe, which most of you I'm sure are. And also, if you like what we're doing here, you want to help the channel out, or you want priority access and getting your films reviewed, consider becoming a member. Starts at just $5 a month and gets you a variety of benefits. Gets you a private Facebook group where you have kind of a little more access to myself, Jay, Jared, stuff like that.
I was gonna say we have. I could give some semi-secret information. Two
Only
things.
Semi, though.
I got I'm reviewing a 30 weddings with this review.
I was gonna say way more than 30 days, right?
Or 30 weddings, and I can show you it wasn't all good. But if you're interested in knowing about the Weeble 3, how it went, we're going to be having that coming up on probably tomorrow on the channel. And then also we are going to Tokyo with Wedding Film School.
And we can't say why.
We can't say why, but it's going to be really cool. And so wish us luck. We're going to have some content in Tokyo and then also some other cool stuff coming from that trip.
Yeah,
so
stay
we're really
tuned for that.
super excited. So who's our last filmmaker today?
All right, we've got, and I actually saw him in chat, so I'd love to, if you are still here, it is Felipe Idrovo, and I might have screwed up that name, but from F Records Films. F Records Films or F Records Films? I'm not sure. Yeah, say what's up if you're still in chat. We're excited to watch your film. So Felipe says, this was a small but very intimate, elegant wedding. Daring to use only handheld with the A7S III and gyro in post, I'm assuming meaning like stabilization. Excuse me. Only paid for 6 hours of coverage, and they wanted a 20-minute film and a 5-minute highlight. Hard to create a 20-minute film with only 6 hours of coverage. My
answer would be no, I will not do that for you.
Yeah, I won't create one with 3 days of coverage.
I'm like, how long is your ceremony? Buy that.
But you know who does some amazing long-form films that I've been seeing is Henry. I know he's trying to lean into that more.
But he does 3 days of coverage.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, or more, like a week or something, which obviously makes a big impact. I doubt he would say 6 hours. Yeah, let me make you a 20-minute film. But all that to say, long-form films can be amazing.
We've just been doing a bunch of 12 to 15 minutes this year.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of my favorite films we've done. Really? Yeah, I'm.
Why do you think? Do you think it just gives you more room?
Some of it.
What is it?
Some of it is they terrify me, and so we actually.
When you finish it, you're like, "Wow, I did that."
No, we actually look at the film and have to be a lot more intentional to get for us, for our style of filmmaking. Like we want the film to always move. Even if it's a 12-minute film, I don't just show 30. Some people, they're like, I made a 60-minute film, and it's just got 30 straight minutes of
8 minutes of ceremony. It's
we don't do that. We do 12 to 15-minute highlight films.
Yeah.
And so we break them into 4 or 5 story segments, and we're organizing it, and we shoot it that way. And so it just pushes us as storytellers a little bit, and we won't do them for anything but multi-days of coverage.
For sure. I think it has to be that way.
So we have these multi-day coverage events, and we're spending more time with the families, and I don't know, I've just enjoyed it. So yeah, 6 hours of coverage, I would not, that's tough, man. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I'd be sweating bullets creating a 3-minute film probably on that day, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Without further ado, let's dive in. I thought that was part of the film. I was like, whoa, we're really... And Felipe is here, so love seeing that.
When I saw Arthur Paparini with this woman, Kathleen, my life changed.
Oh, is this
because he
FTV?
loved her.
Ah, it might have been faked.
Like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yo, dog. This is good shooting.
The reason it correlates so well tonight is because every time Monica's in the same room as my life is different. And as soon as I knew that, I said to myself, that's love.
Getting attacked by bugs.
I'm crying.
I need not to have that right in my ears. That kissing sound.
What's like the fear of it's not like a thing like same as like people chewing?
Honestly, it's just a thing for me. Like, I don't want to hear people kiss.
Yeah.
It just makes me grossed out. And maybe that's not everyone, but that is me. In our films, I'm like even if like people kiss, if there's like the little spit thing, I'm like, can't include it.
First kiss, nope.
No.
First look, nope.
No kissing sounds. No
your kissing was too loud.
No. Like, I'll always walk in. I'm like, that was a weird kiss. That was a weird... Like, everybody knows if I come into the studio and look at their work, I'm like, weird kiss. Get that out of there. So, I don't know. It's me. It's not you. Whoa.
Monica and Arthur, marriage is perhaps the greatest and most challenging adventure of human relationships. It's going to expand you as individuals. It's going to define you as a couple and deepen your love for each other. A ceremony can't do that. Only you can do that through your daily love and patience, through dedication and perseverance, through always talking and listening and helping and supporting and believing in each other. Learning to appreciate your differences, will you strive to keep compassion, integrity, and love at the center of your hearts and as the pillars of your marriage?
We will.
Will you affirm your willingness to keep your hearts open, even in the midst of pain, to the limitless possibilities available to a wife and husband in the journey of marriage?
We will.
And finally, will you strive to keep Jesus Christ, who is an image of God's love in our world, at the center of your married life?
We will.
No, Art's an incredible man with probably the biggest heart that I've been lucky enough to see in my life so far. It has been a great pleasure to know you, getting to know you, Art, over the years. And we've been lucky enough to witness the growing love that you and my mom.
Is this audio is just hurting my ears? Like,
you always have a better something for that, but so I was like, is there something up with the audio from the ceremony?
well, it's super over processed.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think that might be because it was like, down.
No, I think it's because he's trying to tweak it, and it's just becoming both like he's
Falling
either
apart a
cutting
little.
wind out or
Yeah.
something, but it's just like really compressing that sound, and it's just kind of painful.
Have shared over the time you guys have known each other. The two of you truly complement each other and have formed an outstanding bond.
What is that shot? And he keeps doing it. It looks awesome, but like,
Wide.
what is that?
I think that's just up on a gimbal.
Gimbal, but
Or
it's
maybe
look
on a
how high
jib
it
with
is.
Some post zooms.
No, it's like a gimbal on a monopod,
Also possible.
right?
He's in chat.
Yeah, tell us.
Felipe, what is this shot done of?
And is this like a 16 mil lens?
Probably.
Anyway, it looks cool.
So congratulations, and Arthur, you may now kiss your bride. And I present to you for the first time.
That dude cannot hit a kiss. Like every time he's kissing this lady, he's missing the kiss and adjusting. It's like it's like a two-step process.
Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Reagan.
Okay. All
For
right.
what it's worth, Felipe is saying it's a gimbal on a monopod with a 20 millimeter.
Honestly, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's
It looks
something
cool.
different. We don't see that much.
Yeah, it was cool looking. Nice. I would probably be too lazy to do that personally, by the way. but
At
but
the
it
end
looked,
of the night, you're just like, whatever.
take a couple loops
Yeah.
around the dance floor, throw the gimbal in the car.
Cool. Sweet. So let's talk about it, Jay.
All
You wanna
right,
go first?
so
You wanna go second? What do you
I'll
think?
go first. What I like is use of light. I think one negative about this I'll get into later, but the positive I'll say is good direction. Like what he's asking the couple to do, and like the shots he's getting. A lot of good ones, some a little overly posed, but a lot of really good ones, and just I think the shooting overall is really, really, really solid. Like, there's a lot of just a lot of crazy lighting scenarios in this, and most were handled super, super, super well. I think, especially considering he's got 6 hours, he was able to make a very compelling film. It really, I think, kept a person interested in and I honestly, even though I don't like the audio was bothering me, it seems like he got a lot of good sound bites. I don't know, I look at this and go they would be psyched with this 6 hours of coverage.
Yeah, you turn around something very good given the limitations built into the day. I'll echo a couple of those. One, the use of light, in her, those beginning prep shots of her, I would love to have access to light like that and a bride that seems to just kind of go with the flow as far as whatever you wanted.
It's very
she
elegant.
trusted you, and you knocked it out of the park with some of those shots.
Yeah, and just
Also-
to echo that with you're saying with the bride, because I didn't really I think you're kind of when you take a bride and you allow the portrait work to reflect her personality, and this is a distinguished person.
Yeah.
And she's an older bride, and I just felt like you really enhanced the good qualities she had, how you posed her, where you put her, how you portrayed her.
For sure. Also, again, like you said, Jay, good direction. And I felt like, you know, I'm very sensitive to overly directed, I would say. And, you know, there are a few shots that maybe push that line a little bit, toe that line, but nothing to me felt like, oh my gosh, like, come on. Like, I know there's like the shot of them walking towards each other.
I don't like that. That one I could do
That's
it.
like, that's kind of the furthest one for me. But like, yeah, all in all, I think the direction worked well.
Yes.
Also, okay, you know, I am going to talk about the music in kind of the things that I would maybe change or whatever, but I do want to say that given, you know, taking the music that you chose out of the equation, I think that you used the music very well. So it's very clear no matter what music you would have chosen, I think would have been utilized well, which is important. And then one of the biggest things that I think I want to commend you on is making a film like this that is very good, very well shot, taking control and directing and using light as you need to and stuff like that for an older couple, I think can be even harder. And so I think you represented them well. I think you told a very good story. I think you were able to work very creatively, and all of those I've found, at least, and maybe Jay, maybe it's different for you. I've only done a handful of weddings with like an older couple.
I do a lot.
I think sometimes it can be more difficult to
I
get
do a
some of
lot,
that
especially
out
if
of
they've been together for a really long time. I did one last Friday, and they're like, we've been together for 12 years, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Like
And it's not that they don't care. It's just it's a
oh, they
different-
care a lot. The toasts were
Yeah.
actually incredible, but they just
Yeah.
they weren't into like portrait sessions and getting like
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
just kind of over some of that stuff.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
So yeah, I think a very, very good job there.
So-
What about Jay? Things that you think could be improved?
You know, I think for me, what we were talking about, like you were kind of leaning into it. I don't like this music. Like, the song's fine, but like, it doesn't scream understated. It doesn't scream small. It screams high drama, and I would not call this a high drama wedding.
I agree.
And
I actually think there are parts of the song that I don't mind at all that I think are good, but it's that really dramatic, like villain Marvel movie that I'm just
well,
like,
it's like
this
a
just
sculpting
doesn't
with
fit for
time
me.
thing. This is like a sculpting with time thing, and I think, like, if you go back and watch their France edit, I think he's dealing with a similar type of couple. They have this like chateau in France.
Oh yeah. I remember
And I feel like it's an older couple, very reserved. I think the way that they were portrayed was really good. I don't really love like some of the sound effects were not like I pretty much never ever like a drone shot with a sound effect of a flag because it's not realistic. Like if you were that far
So
away,
if you want to impress us, no drone shots with flags, no kissing noises. So you guys
I
know for
don't
next
like
week.
kissing noises. And like footsteps that sound like they're not directionally motivated. Like just like light, right? When you look at light, when you're lighting someone, you want the light to be motivated, right? It's like, oh, what direction are the windows? We're gonna light them there, and so it looks realistic. You need your audio to be motivated too. So it needs to be mixed to the direction that at the volume level, even with like a high-end damping, because it's like it wouldn't sound like you were close miking footsteps.
Yeah.
It would sound like distant footsteps. They would actually get quieter as they walked away. Like you can do that stuff in post, but I think so the mix was just kind of off on some of that. And here's my biggest critique with the film. And people do this a lot, and I don't really know what to tell them, because what I know is like if you show this film to most people, some will be like, "Oh, it's too much for me," right? But I think a lot of people will be like, "Whoa, this is cool. This is like a movie." Like there's a lot of like really tricks, right? Zooms and the FPV stuff and high drama, lots like swooping around everywhere and just really a lot of good shooting. But to me, a lot of it was off. Like it just felt like more than the day was needing.
I was gonna say, do you think that's reflective of like who the couple was and what the day
Yeah.
was, and kind of trying to mold it into what you as the filmmaker wanted to do?
Yes. Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, I will say it's very interesting that we have this juxtaposed backing right up against Brandon's film, where, you know, we kind of dealt with that same thing, although it seems like the couple is maybe more verbal about it, about like, hey, we don't want our dancing. We want all this liturgy or whatever from the ceremony in there. and Brandon kind of leaned into what they wanted and leaned out of what he wanted to create. And this is maybe a little bit of the opposite, leaning more into what the filmmaker wanted versus what fit the
it almost
couple.
had no natural moments in the whole first half of the film. And
Do you think any part of that though could be also like, hey, we only want, like, kind of where the couple's like, we only want you for 6 minutes or 6 hours, like, you know, whatever, and he's like, well, I'm gonna lean in and just make something that I want to.
Sure. I mean, here's what I'll tell you. That's fine. You can make those choices, but if you submit it, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah,
and like,
for sure.
My opinion is this film should have been covered differently. You should have had a different game plan on the day of. Like, if someone's acting like this, that's part of your consultation job, is to figure out how you can cover the event. And I'll give you an example. I showed up at a wedding last Friday, and the couple was really loosey-goosey. So, and they were like, I was like, this could be a weird day. The venue is like not my favorite venue, all this stuff. So I get to the place, and the photographer's like, they didn't even give me a schedule like normal. So I had like this vague schedule from the couple. I get there and she's like, oh, I'm not coming till 2:30. I'm there at 11:30. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to shoot a bunch of B-roll. And then I look at the schedule and it's like, oh, first look 4:10. And I tell the photographer, I'm like, hey, listen, we can't cover a first look at 4:10. It's going to be no sun at all. It's going to be dark. And so I could just tell really quickly that this day was not going to give me what I normally get. And so I had to totally change my game plan and shoot totally different and aim for, like, these are like homey people. They've been together a long time. He has 2 kids from a different marriage. There's just a lot going on here that my real story changed versus my normal filmmaking style. My story had to change. My coverage changed a lot too. Like, I'm focusing on like them giving each other high fives and people laughing and trying to draw out what's actually happening in front of me. The details in the room were not what I normally would cover. But then I get to these toasts, right? And this stepdaughter gives a toast. And she's weeping. She makes me cry. The whole room's crying because she's like, oh, you are the best mom I could have ever asked for.
Yeah.
And I let the film come to me. Right.
Yeah.
And I think like that's just a skill that takes time, where you're able to go like, I normally do this. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
The ability to pivot a little bit, to roll with the punches a little bit, it's an important part of being a wedding filmmaker specifically.
Yeah. So I look at this film and I feel like it just didn't feel natural the way it was covered and edited for who these people were. But it felt like you were very skilled and good, right? I would love to see some work with
no brainer.
I would love to see the work with a little bit more, a couple where there was a little more drama to it. I think this would work really well.
You know, one thing I'm curious about, and Felipe, I'd love for you to submit again in the future, because one thing that I think would be cool would be to see, I mean, what you could do with, you know, maybe a wedding that fits your vibe a little bit better. But I'd also love to see just like, is that the case, right? Like, is this kind of his style? And he kind of fit his style into this couple's day, or like there's a lot that we don't know. And so I'd love to see, some other work from you, Felipe. As far as things that I would change, and I'll go over them quickly. The footsteps at the beginning, Jay, you touched on it more in depth than I will. The footsteps were too much for me. The other stuff, whatever. Footsteps threw me for a loop. I talked about the music. At points, I think it was too intense. I think there are parts of this track that I think worked and parts that didn't for me.
He said the groom is a Reagan. And by the way, I do get it, by the way, that you just make the film the couple wants. So it is what it is.
So the FPV stuff. Actually, Felipe, was this an FPV drone, or is this kind of faked FPV? I feel like it's kind of faked with a standard drone, but I could be wrong. But with that said, I actually, given the FPV look, do I think this was a little intense at times? Yes, but I rarely have thought like, man, FPV has a place in wedding films, but it kind of worked here for me. So I wanted to make sure
I just didn't like right here when it was flying. It was just randomly flying on the front of the building, and you're seeing cars, and it didn't.
I think it's a little overdone. We saw it too many times, whatever. But it's interesting to me is all I want to say, that like this makes me think, well, like maybe in a really epic trailer type thing, maybe like FPV could be kind of cool or something. And then, yeah, I think that's really all I have. A lot of it was kind of echoing what you said as far as things to improve. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, this is a really, really, really good shooter. Like,
yeah, the skill is.
I love the shooting and
yeah.
You know, the only thing I would say
real
is
FPV. Cool.
Yeah, and I did notice some, like when he was using that tripod move, that sometimes it was really steppy. That stood out to me a little bit, but overall, like I was like, I would take this guy in my crew any day as a shooter.
Yeah, amazing choices during shooting for sure, and great coverage. And yeah, again, 6 hours of coverage, guys. So it's, you know,
again, like when you're working at good filmmakers, you're splitting hairs, and every once in a while, it's like this is where you get into like stylistic choices, and all this stuff. Yeah, Pernell, go ahead and submit, and we'll try to get to it maybe next week, but can't promise it. You might want to become a member if you want to get a better chance.
Yeah, get in the front of the line, be a member.
Yeah.
But with that said, definitely submit, and if we can fit it, we can fit it.
Some good films today, Bobby.
Yeah, this was a fun week. I think we saw some good stuff, had some really good discussion, and yeah.
Oh,
a
man,
bunch of people asking Felipe how much he charged. If you want to share, you are welcome to do so. I know it was not in our in the submission we got from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, man. Like you think some people are just spending all this money because they have all this money, and they just don't.
Yeah.
They just like sometimes the people you think would spend the most money, like they're cheap.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Felipe with 5K is what he charged, so good to know. Oh yeah, Brandon was asking if people guessed his price on the last one. We should have done that right after.
Yeah. Were we supposed to?
If you guys want, I don't know. I kind of mentioned that we might because we did have a price in the submission. If you guys want to guess Brandon's, it was the second film. It was a highlight film and raw footage, and I believe it was
the Coptic wedding.
Yeah, the Coptic wedding, and it was a 5-minute highlight film and raw footage. You guys can throw your guesses in the chat. With that said, again, guys, we are here every week reviewing your films. You can start submitting, specific to you, Pernell, but anybody, you can start submitting right now at the link in the top of the chat on our website. You'll see it there, etc.,
Or
etc.
there, I don't know. Where is it located relative to my screen?
I think this way for me.
This way.
Yeah. Submit there starting now for next week. We will be back. I will be here, I'm pretty sure. Jay will be here, I'm pretty sure. Jared might be here, pretty sure. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the discussion in the chat. We love having you guys here. Hit the like button on your way out if you want priority, reviews. If you want to be at the
Somebody has an
line,
idea. Split screen high five. How do we do this?
Oh wait, so this is towards my microphone.
High five. One,
Yeah.
2, 3,
go. Oh wait, I missed. Wait, ready? One, two, three, go.
You gotta pull.
That was the best one. Wait, I'm watching it live on the back end. It's pretty good. Oh wait, no, this is the better one. Yeah, that was pretty good timing. We're slightly off. We're gonna work on this for the next 7 days straight and not sleep, and then we'll have it nailed down for you guys next time. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you next week. I don't know. I have nothing else to add.
Bye.
See ya.